makes a company able to shift or change direction faster than other? I mean, it's really kind of intriguing to me to know that smaller companies take forever to take a decision and move into change direction actually. So from your experience, what does it really take?
I mean, I think it varies. It's really just sort of based on the culture of the organization. Whether or not, their leadership and their, employees are able to make changes quickly, and efficiently. If that's something that's okay in their culture. Some organizations just are not built on that concept. They're built on doing things the way they've always been done. And that's the biggest obstacle I think that I've seen with any customer.
Very interesting comment here.
Yep. Well, I think a prime example of this is how quickly and I think it's an industry whole, not just our company, but how quickly we moved to working from home. If you planned that out, how long would it take? I mean, I'm kind of asking everybody, but how long do you think it would really take to push your whole company to be working from home? I would guess it'd be a year or two before we'd get everybody there. And we did it basically overnight. I mean, it was at a snap of a finger and boom, everybody's at home. And I think that was just a challenge that we had to overcome.
I can tell you, I did for a very large architecture engineering firm. It took us about a year to put the whole workforce capable of working remotely. Not even actually doing it, but capable of working remotely.
Yeah, we worked with Iron Orbit quite a while before the pandemic hit. We were in negotiations and trying to do proof of concepts and stuff like that, but just the way we moved, it was that slow, and then bam, it changed, and it's like, here's some money, go work with them. And I'm just glad I had the relationships.
Yep.
It is a very, very interesting observation over here. And did you actually have a lot of pushback from, different, employees or professional, creative kind of professionals who were not so keen about changing the way that they operate or work? Because I personally have experienced some of people that we've had here at Iron Orbit and with other customers who did not want to work remote. They insisted actually to come back to office and take their teams back to office. And it was a kind of conflict that we had to step in and resolve at a certain point in time. It's probably against human nature. So what's your take on this, Mike?
Well, we had, before the pandemic, we had a lot of team leaders, I don't know, that just did not want to have their people at home. They were so used to having people in the office, but we're already going down the telecommuter path anyway. We were getting there because we have certain needs where we can't find the talent in our markets. So we'd have to hire somebody from Georgia, or we'd have to hire them from Texas or Phoenix, and we don't have that. So we were already going down that path. And we had already set all that up, and it was mainly for talent acquisition more than anything. But we had people moving away and were going to quit, and they let some people quit and go get a different job because the manager did not want to have that person working remotely. And I talked to, and I know them quite well, the people that had these opinions, because I talked to them beforehand, and their mind is completely changed now. And I think as a culture, our company has changed from, I want my people here, I want to go smell them and see them sitting there and stuff like that, to, well, they're getting a lot more done now when they're working at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about it. So we also one of the companies who shifted completely remotely, and we are a service company. Obviously, it wasn't easy for us to take a call center and take a support engineers and multiple layers. It's a very, very kind of meshed in kind of ecosystem that we run over here, and then take everyone and send them home and ask them to work and operate and support our customers from home. It wasn't really easy. So, and I could sense the same was happening with a lot of our customers, some of the customers that we had. But then, a few weeks later, a month into the pandemic, second month, people were very efficient. They were productive. They were enjoying what they're doing. They had more time on their hands. We gave back. We literally gave back hours to everybody's life that they could go out and do other things about rather than driving back and forth to the office. So it proved to be very actually efficient, to the point where we decided to remain remote forever after, and it's been good since then.
And
the
we're
only
changing. I was going to say we're changing the way we're structuring leases now. That we're not even looking at 5-year leases, and if we are, we're writing in it. You know, if a landlord says you will sign a 5-year lease, we're putting language in there that we will buy out the lease at any time at this amount, and it's clearly structured, because I don't know what our offices are going to be. I don't know that we're going to have. We have a Duluth office in northern Minnesota that it's about 20 people, but there's only about 2 people in the office now. We don't need that space. We don't need to pay, $20 a square foot or whatever we're paying for that office now. And we're not going to sign another lease because we don't know if we're ever getting those people back. So I think some of that's changed in our industry too.
The other thing that's interesting to hear people talk about that, I mean, I think we've been many of us have been aware of for a long time, is talent acquisition. It's, no longer is your pool of potential employee candidates, in your immediate area. You can go out and look for the best of the best for whatever it is that you do in your specialization area, and offer them the fact that, they can stay right where they are. They can work with you. You'll provide them the resources they need to do everything remotely.
I'm enjoying working from home, but I miss waking up in the morning and dressing up properly and then driving to office every now and then. It just hits me, But again, it's the new reality that we have to live with. You gentlemen have actually touched a little bit on the economic impact of this particular industry, and that made me actually go back to one of the notes that I had here. Gartner reported, and that was before the pandemic, by the way, that AEC employees are most focused on possible changes in the economic cycle. They even reported that 36% indicate a high degree of focus on these changes. And again, this data was collected before the pandemic. And Mike, you were saying that there's a lead time. There's almost of 2 years between when the crisis hit and when the effects of that crisis, of the damage, actually does the ripple effect, or whatever you want to call it, hits the industry in particular. But then, taking this and coupling it with the fact that there's a $2 trillion bill being discussed as we speak right now, specifically for infrastructure overhauling, and obviously that $2 trillion will be spent over the next, I would say, maybe decade. It's going to take some time actually for these projects to get delivered and concluded if the bill passes. Do you think that particular, if this thing happens, if this bill actually passes and gets into being executed, do you think that's going to help kind of wash away the impact of this pandemic?
I think some of it will, because we had the shovel-ready stuff in 2010, 11, 12, something like that. Same, not the exact same sort of bill, but a very similar bill that came through where there was a lot of money pushed back for, I think they actually called it shovel-ready projects. So we were able to get some of that funding, get some of those projects, and keep things going. So there is a little light there. We just don't know how much it's going to trickle down to us. There's a lot of people competing for all that money, so there will be some challenges there. When we went through it several years ago, people were basically selling services for less than it even cost them to sell just to get work. So if we end up in a situation like that, we can't sell our services at a loss.
That's very interesting. I personally had high hopes on that particular bill. I thought it's going to have a tremendous impact on the industry, and it's going to probably catapult what we're doing right now and multiply it by, because eventually you would want to deliver these projects, and you would want the whole, the support of the private sector in particular to go and step in and, step up the game. Tyler, how well positioned are you to scale up? Scalability happens to be an ever growing need, right? Everywhere you look, one of the questions that keeps coming up, every conversation that you're on, one of the questions that keeps coming up is, how ready are you to scale up or scale down or scale out if you need to, whether on a system level or on an application level, on an infrastructural level, doesn't matter. Even on the talent. Now, obviously on the talent, we're just talking that one of the, I would say benefits, but one of the good things that happened by working remote is that you're not restricted with a talent pool around where your office is at right now. You can hire people from everywhere. But how about the systems? How about the platforms? How about the applications? How good are you in scaling up? Because I'm imagining that, if this administration is very serious about this bill and it passes through and they want to go full force and starting executing and ramping up these projects, you guys will have to scale up, right?
Yeah.
So
I foresee a lot of acquisitions happening, not just for our company, but in general, because of just what what happened in the past year. I mean, I think everyone kind of sees that. But so in that regard, scaling up, we're ready for that, and we have a team that's dedicated for those kinds of things, and we're ready to go kind of wherever fits, of course, with our culture and then our economic or where we're looking. I also see a shift in, I think, engineering services in general on what they focus on instead of just traditional engineering services. I see a more digital focus on creating that additional segment to whatever their business model is to try to sell digital services, whatever that happens to be. I just think that's going to be a bigger shift in our industry because traditional, like as you said, Mike said, it's a race to the bottom in engineering services. Who can offer the lowest price in services, especially if you're in the public sector, right? That's kind of their deal. So I think just where that model goes and kind of you'll see which engineering service companies get to that market first and which are the innovators, and I think you'll kind of see that shift happen very quickly.
So Jay, what are your thoughts on this as well? I'd like to hear your observations. I know that recently you guys have been involved in numerous projects, the latest of which is the Van Winkle Stadium in Lambert Field. So the question here is, you do a lot of consulting, you do a lot of specifically, in construction and in engineering. So what's your thought on this? What do you think this infrastructure bill or the economic impacts of this would have on your operations or projects going forward?
Well, I don't really know a whole lot about that as far as our company goes, but I've actually got the CEO of our company here with me. I'm going to ask him to take that question.
That's actually an honor.
Yeah, hi. My name is Wade Taboo. I'm the president of our company here. We're not a huge company. We're spread out quite a bit over a large region. We've got about 125 employees. I've been thinking a lot about the impact of the potential stimulus bill. Certainly, it could go a lot of different ways. Some of the reports say a lot of the money won't necessarily go to bridges and roads, but even a small percentage of $2 trillion is still a pretty big money that could get funneled to heavy civil infrastructure. Even the stimulus money that was passed here recently, we're hearing that a lot of that is trickling into our states that we're operating in. And so I think I'm pretty optimistic about kind of the short-term impact it might have on our business in the next few years. And if they pass another infrastructure bill, I think that could be further help. There's always some concern, in the long run, what that's going to do 5 or 10 years down the road when that money has to be paid back, or if interest rates go up, there could be some trick in kind of unraveling that extra spending. But I guess that's for our future selves to worry about at this point. That's kind of just some really high-level thoughts that I've been thinking about here recently.
And Wade, let me welcome you actually for joining us over, and thank you actually for taking a moment here to answer this question. It's pretty exciting to have you on this as well. Some of the projects that you guys have also kind of delivered is the Great Falls Water Treatment Plant, which is pretty much a water treatment project for the American, and then I think it's in Montana, right?
Yeah.
Or actually, yeah. And then the other project was specifically for the Briar Cliff Fire Station. So, I mean, to me, these appears to be projects that are kind of resilient to any pandemic, right? In terms of the nature of the projects and the importance of these projects. So, how resilient was your business to the pandemic? Shedding the light on this, and how are you guys been able to kind of navigate through this particular crisis?
We did fairly well. We, especially in Montana, I don't think there was a huge hit to our operations here. We do have, you mentioned that one project in Pennsylvania. Our Pennsylvania office was hit a lot harder. Things were locked down, a lot more strict there. And in Washington State, we have an office there that was impacted more as well. But like you say, those bigger infrastructure projects, you know, a lot of times they can take 5 or more years, sometimes 10 years to kind of work their way through. So the funding on those kinds of projects had been in place and the planning long before the pandemic, and there was enough momentum to carry those through. So, you know, the pandemic, there's always a lag where, you know, some disruption in the economy, especially in Montana, we're kind of usually a couple of years behind the national trends here. So there's always that concern if the national economy struggles in one year, then a couple of years later, pretty often we're feeling it here. This one feels a little bit different because I think there is some migration from a population out of the big cities into more rural areas, and we're seeing a ton of development pressure right now. Real estate prices are going up pretty significantly here in our region, which is driving a lot of development. We're just seeing lots and lots of development pressure, which is good for our business. We do a lot of land development work.